conversational skills. So it's pretty short and it's pretty simple. So here, just to get us started, it's kind of just like which weather would you prefer? So would you prefer for the weather to be rainy, sunny, or cold and snowy?
Now it's more like the second option,
And the second
but
option,
yes, but it was windy in the morning.
yeah, I would probably choose the second one too. Only because where I live in Texas, and we're mostly used to the hot and warm weather because where I live, it's always like 90, 80 degrees outside. It's always hot and sunny, but even though it's 80 or 90 degrees outside, it feels like it's over 100. So, usually when it's cold down here, it usually drops to like the 20s or 30s, and it gets
Mm.
really cold. So, even though I love the winter, I would rather it be sunny.
And with the global warming, it gets hotter every year.
Yes, that too. It's crazy, especially with summer coming up. It's gonna start, the temperature is gonna start rising again. So I'm already getting prepared for that. So today's agenda, we're gonna go over conversational skills. So we'll talk about active listening, open-ended questions, understanding nonverbal cues, and then we will also foster empathy. So first, we're going to talk about active listening. So, active listening is just making a conscious effort to hear and understand someone. So, when we are actively listening, we tend to demonstrate concern and limit our interruptions. We also will ask open-ended questions. At times, we tend to commit all of our attention to the speaker and establish an environment of trust and judgment-free engagement. So, 8 tips for active listening. So, the first one is paraphrase, and that is just to try and paraphrase what the student said to make sure we understand and show that we are paying attention. We also have ask questions. Ask questions is just to encourage the student to elaborate on their thoughts and feelings. Use body language. This is just to show that you are engaged and interested by nodding, facing the other person, and maintaining an open and relaxed body posture. Show empathy. If the student voices negative feelings, we want to try to validate them, consider why they feel this way, and then put ourselves in their shoes. Avoid judgment. So, our goal is just to understand why the student's perspectives, and we want to try to not interrupt with our own opinions while the student is speaking. You don't want to give advice too quickly. We want to make sure we allow the student to finish speaking before attempting to give advice. And we also want to make sure that we fully understand them first before putting in our opinions. We want to evaluate the conversation. After we have fully taken in what the student has said, we want to take a moment to evaluate their conversation and what they were saying. And last but not least, we want to listen. Listening may just be enough. So we want to, even though we may be tempted to fix the problem at certain times, that's mostly me a lot. A lot of people just want us to listen. And so that's kind of like being a counselor. Counselors are like human beings. They want to, like, put in their 2 cents, and they want to be tempted to like fix it and just tell them, well, why can't you just do this? But a lot of times the person just wants to be heard, and they just want us to sit there and listen without telling them or giving them our opinion as to what they should do. So next we have a whole body listening activity. So the first one would be we use our eyes to blank. So what do you think we use our eyes to do when it comes to body listening?
Mm, we use our eyes to see the speaker.
Yeah, so a lot of times people don't tend to realize that eyes are an important part of positive communication. And why they don't tend to see that is because what are your eyes going to do? Well, a lot of times you can just tell by a person's body language with their eyes. Like if they're annoyed, they'll tend to like roll their eyes or something. So with our eyes, we tend to see the other person's side of the communication. So the second one is we use our ears to blank. So what do you think we use our ears to do?
Of course, we use them to hear what the speaker says.
Yeah, so we use our ears to listen to what the speaker has to say. Next we use our mouths to blank.
hmm To respond or to ask questions.
Yeah, so we'll usually use our mouths. Our mouths are important and like the main function of communicating. So we tend to use our mouths to say how we're feeling or to say what we think should happen. So we use our mouths more to communicate. Next, we use our hands to what?
To meet someone, I mean, to shake hands, or to upload to someone.
Yeah, so um,
For verbal communication,
yeah,
for non-verbal communication. I mean.
yes. So our hands, a lot of people like when you're talking with someone, you'll see them use their hands a lot. So hands do tend to have an important part of communication. But also when you're like in a business meeting and you're communicating with the boss and you make an offer with them, they tend to shake your hand. So hands are a big importance into body listening. So I know those look like shoes, but those are considered feet. So what would we use our feet to communicate with? Why would we use our feet?
Hmm, to communicate. Interesting. It also could be non-verbal communication, but more violent, I think. Maybe to uh, escort someone. Yeah, to go together with someone. That's nice.
Yeah,
To get close to someone. Yes.
so we usually tend to use our feet to communicate through subtle movements and also body language. This often helps reflect our emotions more accurately than our faces, especially because movements are often unconscious and difficult to control. So, like if you're talking with your parent and your parent is like, you're like, oh, I want to go to this party. Can I go? And your parent says no. Usually the kid tends to stomp their feet, especially when they're walking away, and they just make all kinds of loud noises with it to show that they are frustrated. And so feet um are often mostly used though by children and sometimes maybe teenagers. A lot of adults really don't tend to do that kind of stuff because they see that more as like babyish type of stuff. And that stuff, like when you're an adult, you have to make sure you communicate effectively and that you use your feelings and emotions to communicate. You don't want to be stomping your feet and stuff because then it just looks like you're throwing a tantrum. But most teenagers and children do tend to use that. Next, why would we use our whole body? Like our whole body. What would we use our whole body to communicate?
To show some strong emotions, I think. Then the whole body is used to. Yes.
Yeah. So body language is a major part of communication. If you've ever taken professional communications, you'll learn that like your body language says it all. Usually when someone's talking to you, you want to be faced staring directly at them. You want to be straight up seeing. You don't want to be slouched or be like, because they'll just tend to be like, oh, they're not interested. So, it's best like when they're saying you just nod, or agree with them, just so they know, like, okay, they are listening. And so that's where our whole body comes into play when it comes to communication. Next, our brain. So, what do we tend to use our brain for communication?
hmm As a processing unit, the brain is used for processing. Yes, for making sentences, for describing what your partner said.
Yeah. So Usually, our brain is very important for communication. Our brain functions basically your whole body. It functions your speech, your eyesight, your hand movements. Without our brain and those different um, visuals from it, we basically wouldn't be able to do anything because our brain basically functions everything. It's our main function. And last but not least, our heart. Why would we use our heart to communicate?
Uh, what we use our heart for? Yeah, for
Yeah,
we use our heart for uh, showing empathy to feel other person, its emotions, its intentions, uh, something like that.
perfect. That's amazing. So yeah, these all eight of these is what we use for whole body listening. So next we'll go ahead and go on to open-ended questions. So open-ended questions. So unlike closed questions, they cannot be answered with a simple yes or no or even a short one-word response. They do require the respondent to provide a more detailed and thoughtful and even a potentially elaborate answer in their own words. So, open ended questions versus closed ended questions. So, on the left, we have open ended questions, and on the right, we have closed ended questions. So, an answer type. So, on the open ended side, an answer type would be descriptive, detailed, and answered. But closed ended would be short, specific answers. On choices, open ended would be many possible answers, while for closed ended, it would be limited to set options like yes or no. The purpose for open ended is just to understand ideas or feelings, while closed ended is to get clear, quick information. An example would be for open ended, what do you think of our product? While for closed ended would be, do you like our product? Analysis for open ended would require a qualitative analysis, while closed ended analysis would be simple and often can be analyzed quantitatively. So, how do we ask open ended questions? Well, we want to make sure we get creative. We want to start with a how or what. We want to make sure the answers can't be yes or no. We want to avoid simple answers. We want to make the question really complicated. Or do we want to make the question really complicated? We want to have no idea or sorry. You don't want to give set answers. You want to use hypothetical questions, and we want to make sure that we let people answer what they want. So, next, we have a little activity, and we're just going to try to identify if it's open or closed. So, our first one is, what do you think of school? Do you think that is an open or closed question?
Uh, it's an open uh, it's, it's an open question because uh, in the question it doesn't have a specified set of answers.
Yeah, so the first one would be considered an open question. Our second one is, when do you go to sleep?
Mhm. It's also open-ended question because
Yeah,
it can differ from depending on the people you question or the time or a period of a year even.
good job. Yeah, so the second one would also be considered open. Our third one, how would you describe pizza? Is that open or closed?
It's also open because you can describe pizza in different ways. Its shape, its toppings, how tasty it is, and the other ways.
Good job. And then our fourth one, who is your teacher? Is that open or closed?
It's a bit tricky, but I think it's also open because it's not satisfied. It's not specified the subject.
Good. At the number five, do you like the color green?
It's a close-ended question, yes, because the the question implies that you need to answer yes or no.
Right. Number six, tell me about your family.
It's also it's not like a question, I think, but it's uh, uh, mm, someone asks you to do it.
Good. At the number seven, how was your weekend?
It's also open-ended.
Perfect. What do you like to do for fun?
The same as the previous one, yes.
Good. What is your favorite color?
Also, and the last one, the last question is also open-ended.
Perfect. So next we're gonna go ahead and go over understanding nonverbal cues. So understanding nonverbal cues. Your nonverbal communication cues are the way we listen, look, move, and react. We want to make sure we tell the person that we're communicating with whether or not we care. If you're being truthful and how well you're listening, when your nonverbal signals match up with the words you're saying, they increase trust, clarity, and rapport. So here we have verbal versus nonverbal. So we have content of comparison. On the left, we have verbal, and then on the right, we have nonverbal. So use of words and language. For verbal, we'd be talking, while nonverbal, we would be silent. Consciousness, same thing, talking, but for nonverbal, we just be silent and maintaining eye contact. Eye contact. Next, we have context. Then we also have decoding, which is understanding the message. So for context, we would be speaking how we're feeling, and on this one, you would just using hand movements. Decoding, we would speak verbally with our mouth, while for nonverbal, we would just put like little emojis. Like I don't know if you ever see those, but like if you go to a doctor's office or like a therapist's office, they'll have like a poster with like little emojis and they'll say like, how are you feeling today from 1 to 5? One being angry or sad and five being happy and excited. So for mode, for verbal, we would either send a message or talk on the phone. While for nonverbal, we would tend to just watch videos. Time consumption. For verbal, time tends to move fast, but for nonverbal, it moves as slow as a snail or a slug. And then last but not least, our physical presence. Verbal, we tend to um, focus more, while for nonverbal, it's more silent. They tend to just pay attention to what the person is saying. Next, we have nonverbal communication. It tends to maintain eye contact, practice good posture, smile when appropriate, avoid unnecessary movement, keep an open stance, avoid crossing arms, and nod to show interest. So, nonverbal communication is more, um, it's kind of more of a respectful way of communicating. So, next, we're going to do fostering empathy. So, fostering empathy. This involves turning understanding into action. So you want to encourage a child to perform acts of kindness both within the family and in their wider community. So this could just be as simple as helping a friend in need, participating in charity events, or even volunteering together as a family. Discuss feelings openly. So the role of communication and fostering empathy. So there are four roles. So the first role is just to listen actively and attentively Rule number two would be using appropriate verbal and nonverbal cues. Rule number three would be sharing personal stories and experiences. And rule number four would be giving constructive feedback and praise. So, why do you think conversational skills are important?
Uh, because mm, because it makes you understand the speaker more. Because you with these skills you are able to show what you wanna to say or to show more also. Maybe to emphasize something, yes, or to make the partner you speak to more comfortable or uncomfortable. It could be different situations.
Yeah, so that is a perfect
So,
way to
yeah,
describe.
in short, to make your conversations more effective in different ways, in different terms.
Yeah, perfect. That's a perfect description for it. So, just a reminder that on Sundays we do have optional office hours. However, I do have a quick question. So, last Sunday we had daylight saving time ends where basically our clock moves back an hour. However, what time is it? Is it in Ukraine right now?
In Ukraine, now it's like 7:30 p.m. No, 19:30.
Okay, so I just realized something. I've been messing up on our time. So because my time moved back an hour, where I'm at, it's 12 o'clock, right? Which is usually the time we have our meetings at. But
Mhm.
where you're at, it is barely 7 p.m. And we usually
Yes,
have our meetings for your time,
yes,
it's usually 8
yes,
p.m.
yes.
So what I'm going to do is I want you to discard the optional office hours. I'm going to go in, change the times. From now on, our meetings will be 1 p.m. USA time and
Mhm.
8 p.m. Ukraine time. I just realized that. And I just realized that's why my individual student didn't show up to our meeting last Sunday because I was an hour early and she still had a whole hour before the meeting. So now that I know
Mhm.
that, I will go in and change that. This is my first time doing the tutoring and stuff. I barely joined like back in October. So I'm still trying to figure things out. But now that I know, I can make sure that when daylight saving times happen, I need to move the hour ahead. And then when it ends, I need to move the hour ahead.
Actually, in the engine, it shows that our meeting should be at 7 p.m. So I thought it was yeah, I just forgot that, but it's not a problem. Yes. Uh,
Yeah.
we also change our clocks. We changed from now on in Ukraine. We have the
Yes. I'll be
one time. Yes, we doesn't do that. We don't do that. But on my phone, it changes automatically time zone. Yeah. So maybe you
yeah,
can
and I
also
can't believe
you can also set it to change automatically.
yeah, so I just went ahead and changed it. I'm changing the office hours right now to 2 p.m. Um, for my time, and it'll still be at 9 p.m. for your guys' time. I never realized that. I never realized that I was setting it up wrong, but I just fixed it.
Do
So it is now fixed. So I'll make sure to change that, the optional office hours. It's been changed and I updated it. So as always, if you have any questions, you have my email, you have my Instagram. Uh, Overdue activities, you have none since you completed them all last week in our meetings. So great job on that. You did great on that. And then our quote of the day is just to not is just don't let yesterday use up too much of today. So do
Mm-hmm.
you have any questions?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay, perfect. Then our next meeting will be Friday, March 21st. Our topic will be lyrical meanings. I saw your survey and I saw you want to include a lot of music and other stuff.
Yeah.
So our next couple of weeks we'll be doing some of those. So we'll discuss lyrical meanings because there are a lot of meanings towards music that people often tend to miss. So that'll be fun. We'll go over some deep songs of and we'll dive deep into what the lyrics mean. But that is everything that I have for today. I changed our time. Our time will be at 1 p.m. USA time and 8 p.m. Ukraine time. So, I changed the time though on the office hours. So if you want to stop by on Sunday, you can. They are optional. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can. Um, but if not, that's everything that I have for today. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you again next Friday.
Okay, thank you. Have a good
You
weekend.
you too. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye.
Bye.